Hi sweet friends, welcome back to the annotation series on my channel. Today we are doing something completely different and brand new to me. I'm going to do what I usually do with these live annotation videos, which is pick out a new book and start from the beginning and share with you all out loud what it is that I'm underlining, highlighting, writing in the margins. But today I'm going to be using and trying out for the first time some non-permanent annotation supplies. I hauled all of these supplies in my annotation supplies video a couple of videos ago. If you're interested in seeing more details, go check that out. But these are all brand new to me. I've never done this technique before. If you've seen some of my other videos or hung around for a little while, you know that I love writing in my books. I have no problem with it. I actually like to get really up close and personal and doodle in them and write in the margins and do all the things. But I have had some requests to do some non-permanent annotations, and I've also been interested myself because there are different scenarios where it might come in handy. There might be books that are special and handed down from somebody or gifted to you. There might be books that are special editions. Maybe it's a book that you want to give away or to sell, or maybe you're just somebody that doesn't feel comfortable writing in books. So there are a number of different reasons why doing non-permanent annotations might be the way to go. So today I am really excited to get into that and to see how I feel and how my experience is. Now, I bet there's a little bit of a learning curve, but I think the best way with these things is to just jump right in and see how you go as you're going and just kind of learn on the go with these supplies. And if you are new to my annotation series, I would recommend starting with maybe one of my other live annotation videos because that's more my normal style of annotating if you're looking to just see a live example. And if you're brand new to annotating as a whole, then start with my Annotating 101 video. This video is a step-by-step beginner guide to help you get started with annotating as a concept and as a technique. It kind of walks you through everything you need to know. So start there. But if you are someone who's seasoned and has been around for a little while, I'm excited to try this new technique with you all, and we'll just see how it goes. I think we just need to dive right in and learn as we go. The book I am annotating today is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I have a number of different non-permanent supplies here in front of me. I did haul all of these in my annotation supplies do's and don'ts video. Go check that out if you want a lot more details on some of my recommendations for supplies. As I mentioned, this is the first time that I'm doing a non-permanent approach to annotating books, so there might be a little bit of a learning curve, but we're just going to dive right in and see what happens. So the supplies I have here in front of me are a couple of sticky pads. I have a small one that I thought would be good for writing in the margins. I love writing in the margins, so I thought this small one would be good for that. And then I have a larger notepad here, sticky notepad, that we can use maybe at the ends of chapters or places where there's a little bit more space and I want to say a few more things. Then I have these sticky highlighter tabs. They are individual and come in a number of different colors. Now, I'm usually somebody that likes to use neutrals. I use neutral highlighters and I use like neutral tabs and pens and things when it comes to annotating directly in the books. But when it comes to these non-permanent supplies, they don't come in neutral tones, so I kind of had to make my peace with that. I thought the red here maybe could be really nice with the red on the cover. And same with these tabs. I didn't have any other kind of tabs that went with it. So I do have a set of tabs as well that we can use to mark any of the written notes that I have or anything important that I want to reference. And then I also have these underline tabs. These are pre-underlined. I thought the yellow kind of went nice with these little ornaments in her hair and on her dress. So depending, on just what non-permanent supplies you have, you'll have to kind of play around with what colors and things. If you're picky like me, you might have to make peace with whatever there is. So I thought, if I can't use neutrals, at least I could try to match some of it to the cover and see how that goes. See if the color is, hopefully not too ostentatious, especially for somebody like me who does prefer to use neutrals. I also here have a pen. It's the Muji pen. This is new to me. It is a very fine nib. It's 0.38. So that's typically my preference for writing when I'm annotating. It's just a really, really fine nib because I'm used to writing in such small spaces. And then I also have a pair of scissors because I imagine I will probably have to cut and trim some of these underline tabs as well as the highlighter tabs, just depending on like how long the sentence is that I'm going to have to underline or highlight or whatever it might be. So I have all these supplies. We'll see how it goes. Never done this before, but I'm excited to try a new approach. I've already got ink on my fingers, so already off to a great start. I actually think I'm going to switch over to my trusted, tried and true Sharpie S Gel 0.38 because I think that Muji is the one that exploded on my hand. I tried to wipe some of it off, but we're going to go with this one because it never lets me down and it is tried and true. So this is the 0.38 Sharpie S Gel. And what I typically do is I will write directly on the title page to establish what tabs I'm using and like what system to designate what each tab represents. Now, because I'm not writing directly on this book, I'm trying to think of what I can do to label these tabs. Because these are transparent tabs, I can't just use like my regular ballpoint pens and my gel-based pens. Just thinking out loud here. I think what I might do is actually use one of these notepads and just take all of the tabs that I would normally, actually, how about first we write all the categories? So if you've watched a couple of these videos of mine, you know that I've come to a place where in this season of annotating, I've kind of established using the same colored tabs in all of my books. It just kind of helps me not have to reorient every time I annotate. This is a system that I've come up with and I've enjoyed so far. And so I think that's what I'm going to do this time as well. So typically I will use a red tab for sweet and emotional moments. This is also a romance, so I imagine we'll have a lot of those. So I think what I'm going to do is take the tab and put it over that note so you can still kind of see, okay, the pink ones represent sweet and emotional. Then we have the yellow, which I usually use for quotes, anything notable that I want to remember and refer back to. I'm a big quotes girl, so I do like highlighting those. And then we have the green, which is what I usually use for plot or world building. So that is what we are going to make our green tab. That is green. And then I will use a blue tab for sad moments. I'm going to use a blue tab for that. And then typically I would use like a purple kind of tab to designate like character traits. I don't really see a purple, so I could use this dark one or this like dark burgundy one. Maybe we'll go with that one. That one's prettier. So I'm going to put character tabs. And Ali Hazelwood usually does do a good job of like creating really well-developed characters. So I'm hoping there's some good character development in this book as well. So we're going to use that dark burgundy kind of tab. And then I think we can just take this. I hope these notepads are sticky as well. I haven't tried them. So like I said, all these supplies are new to me. So we'll see how we go. But we have all of our tabs here and I'm just going to put them right in the middle. And there is our designated tabbing system, a really cool non-permanent way to define all of them. Uh-oh. Yeah, I just need to not touch it and leave it alone. Okay, have our tabs all ready to go. To Thou and Sarah, I could not do this without you. The knot is K-N-O-T, and I wouldn't even want to. Prologue. This marriage, it's going to be a problem. She is going to be a problem. This war of ours, the one between the vampires and the wares, began several centuries ago with brutal escalations of violence, culminated amid flowing torrents of varicolored blood and ended in a whimper of buttercream cake on the day I met my husband for the first time, which, as it happens, was also the day of our wedding. Okay, we're just jumping right in. So this one paragraph already tells me so much. It's vampires and wares. They're in a brutal war, probably true enemies vibes, and she's meeting her husband on the day of their wedding. So normally, if I was writing in the books, I would be highlighting that. I'm a big annotator, by the way. If you have watched some of my other videos, you know I have a lot of opinions. I have a lot of reactions and responses to things. It's just kind of like a flow of consciousness for me. Annotating is such a wonderful experience for me to really like interact with the book. And that's the best part, is that you get to give your own responses to things and what kind of stands out to you. And for me, that's pretty substantial. Like, imagine meeting your husband for the first time on the day of your wedding. So I think what I might do is underline that. Now, this time we're not writing in the books. I'm going to take one of these like underline tabs. They seem to be pretty good quality, like it's not very flimsy. So what I think I have to do is I will find where I would start underlining. Start from one end. It's almost like treating it like washi paper, if you've ever used that like in your journaling or anything. Start on one end and then just go across and lay down as far as you need. So I'm going to lay it down until there. And this is where our scissors are going to come in handy. I'm just going to cut that little bit off. Now, I'm not sure what to do. Maybe we'll just keep little pieces on the side in case we can use them for other underlines in different places. The only thing I will mention about this is there is like a little bit of a sheer cast over the text, obviously, because we are putting something on top of it. Even though it is see-through, you can still kind of see the difference. Like, this text now doesn't look as pigmented as this text, but I think I'm okay with that. Let's keep going. And as you'll notice also, sometimes when I underline or I write something, I don't necessarily always use a tab next to it. You don't have to, because tabbing is really for places in the book that you want to reference back to when you are flipping through the book, or you're trying to look for something important or something that stood out to you. That's what the tabs are for. They are a reference system to go back to. And sometimes when I read, I'll have a reaction to something or a response to something, but it's not necessarily something that I want to refer back to. So we don't need a tab for that. Not quite the stuff of childhood dreams. Then again, I'm no dreamer. I only ever contemplated marriage once, back in the gloomy days of my childhood. Following a few too harsh punishments and a poorly executed assassination attempt, Serena and I concocted plans for a grand escape, which was going to involve pyrotechnics-based diversions, stealing our math tutor's car, and flipping off our caregivers in the rearview mirror. Now that sounds like a wonderful partner in crime who's willing to do anything with you, and what a childhood, quite imaginative. We'll stop by the animal shelter and adopt one of those shaggy dogs. Pick up a Slurpee for me, some blood for you, disappear forever in human territory. I'm pausing here because I'm wondering, okay, we're getting a lot of background information on this main character who we are hearing the point of view from. We have already established that she is a vampire because she drinks blood. That's what they're stopping for from her. And you can already tell she had a very imaginative childhood as well. She had a lot of grand ideas. So I'm wondering, is this worth kind of maybe just putting a character tab on, just because I love, kind of tracing back like where the character development comes from. And, like with most of us, we learn so much in our childhoods, and all of that early development can play such a role in who we become as adults. And I wonder if this kind of plays into who she will be in this arranged marriage that they have, because it sounds like she's already such a like strong-willed girl, even from childhood, like with her own ideas, her own thoughts. And yeah, I find it interesting. So I don't have anything to say, but I will put this character tab up here. And sometimes it's tricky with these tabs because like I don't want to cover up any text. So I'm just going to use this little slot right here. And what I do with tabs, because I'm somebody that really likes my tabs to stick out at a particular depth from the book, and I like them all to be consistent, I will lay out the tab how far I want it to go and then push down backwards. So then I can ensure only as much as I want to stick out sticks out. Now I know it's covering a little bit of that, but I'm okay with that. Will they let me in if I'm not human? I asked, even though that was the least of our plan's flaws. We were both 11. Neither of us could drive. Interspecies peace in the Southwest region relied quite literally on me staying the hell put. I'll vouch for you. Will that be enough? I'll marry you. They'll believe you're human, my human wife. As proposals went, it seemed solid, so I nodded solemnly and said, I accept. Isn't that so sweet? That is what I miss the most about childhood and just all of us adults not being kids anymore. Is like it's so simple in a child's mind. You make a plan, it sounds decent enough. Okay, let's just go and do it. And I don't know where along the way in adulting, like we acquire this fear of like not just chasing and following all the things that we want to do. I mean, rightfully so, probably in most cases, because we do have responsibilities and, you know, a certain moral code to live by. But sometimes I do kind of miss the innocence of like, you know, the way a child views the world and being able to do anything, being able to accomplish anything, you know, just put a plan together and go execute it. That's that simple. So I think I might actually make a little note of that. So it gives us an opportunity to use our tiny little tab here. So I'm hoping it fits in these margins. So what I'm going to do first is just write what I want to write, which is sometimes I really miss the innocence of childhood and the simplicity. Now this is a little different for me because what I like to do, if it's a longer bit of text that I'm writing next to, I'll make a bracket. I don't think I'm going to be able to use my bracketing system. We might just end up having to use more of these tabs. But I will say it was a little bit easier to write just how I would normally write here and then move it. Because if I'm writing directly in the book, I usually have to like, you know, put my hand a little funny and write sideways or write along up and down here. And sometimes the book and different things get in the way. So I will say that has been fun to just write normally and then be able to stick it down. So let's see what happens when we try to stick it down. This paper is also very thick and it seems like it's high quality. Now, I can't speak to the stickiness of it. I'm hoping it's going to stick through and last the test of time, but we'll see what happens. So I want to write this next to what we just talked about here, which is as proposals went and seemed solid. So I nodded solemnly and said, I accept. So if I put this here, what happens? Oh no, it's going to cover some of that text, which is so annoying. Okay, so let's put it down. I was really hoping it was going to be like an exact match of width to fit in the margins, but it's not, and I'm not sure how I feel about that. I don't love that it covers it up. It's also not see-through, so I can't see it. We're going to leave that alone for now, and we'll see how we go. But yeah, something to note is that these tabs are not skinny enough for these margins. Now, that might be a different story in a different book that maybe has a bit more space in the margins, but for this one, it doesn't. But let's just keep going, see how this whole non-permanent journey goes. That was 14 years ago, though, and Serena never married me. In fact, she's long gone. I'm here alone with a giant heap of expensive wedding favors that'll hopefully fool guests into overlooking the lack of love, genetic compatibility, or even previous acquaintance between me and the groom. Now, I might use that tiny little underline bit we had left from earlier just to highlight. I'm going to underline, in fact, she's long gone, because I feel like that's kind of, oh, that's perfect. It fits exactly what I need. Because it seemed like this childhood friend had an impact on her, and now it seems like, you know, one of her allies who kind of understood where she came from, she's gone now. So I thought that was significant. We'll just put a little underline there. I will say the underline tabs are pretty cool. I did try to arrange a meeting, suggested to my people that they suggest to his people that we could grab lunch the week before the ceremony, coffee the previous day, a glass of tap water the morning of. Anything to avoid a how do you do in front of the officiant. That's actually quite funny. I mean, I really feel for the girl. Can you imagine like making all these attempts and literally just trying to get a glimpse of the person that you're going to marry? You've never even had a conversation or even shared a glass of tap water. I mean, poor girl, what is she walking into? My request was escalated to the Vampire Council and resulted in a phone call from one of the members' aides. His tone managed to be polite while heavily implying that I was a cuckoo nutbird. He's aware, a very powerful and dangerous where. Just the logistics of providing security for such a meeting would be. Wow. I'm actually going to write that and just say, wow. Imagine having to fight this hard to even say hello to your groom. I mean, in what world? That's wild. That is truly so wild. So have my little note here, which I would typically write in the margins. But we're going to do the same thing and just stick it here along the side, which is not my favorite thing in the world, but here we are. I'll be marrying this dangerous where, I pointed out evenly, and a bashful throat was cleared. He's an alpha, Miss Lark, too busy to meet. Busy with his pack, Miss Lark. I pictured him in a home gym, tirelessly working on his abs, and shrugged. Laugh out loud. 10 days have passed and I have yet to meet my groom. Instead, I've become a project, one that requires a concerted effort from an interdisciplinary crew to look wettable. A manicurist coaxes my nails into pink ovals, a facialist smacks my cheeks with relish, a hairdresser magically hides my pointed ears under a web of dark blonde braids, and a makeup expert paints a different face on top of mine. Something interesting and sophisticated and zygomatic. I think that refers to something that like has to do with cheekbones or something, that word. That is just so frustrating and so typical, isn't it? It's like he gets to just go and be whatever he wants to be, and she has to be dressed up like a doll so that she can be presented like, you know, perfect for him, and he gets to put in zero effort. Stuff like that makes me so upset. Like, I hate that kind of misogyny. I think I'm going to underline first that little bit where she says she's become a project, because isn't that just exactly the problem? She has to have flaws that need to be fixed, and she's, you know, a project that needs like stuff worked on so that she could be wettable, as she calls it. I'm going to cut it off there, and I don't think this one is long enough, so let's just save that little bit. I'm going to go get another one. I will say this is a little bit tedious. If I had my underline, I would just be putting down my tabs and underlining and quickly be on my way. So that isn't something to note, is that this process is very much more time and effort than if I were just writing directly in the book. But we are keeping an open mind and we're going to keep going. But something to note is that it does take a little bit more time to get those underlines down. So yeah, I hate that whole notion of like, why does she have to put in all this effort to be presentable to him? Why does she have to work on being wettable, as she called it, while he gets to just chill and even ignore her attempts at trying to say hello? Like, why isn't he making an effort to say hello? So that's a question. I will say this little tab stresses me out a little bit because I feel like I have to like write everything I need to write and fit it into this little tab. Whereas if I was writing directly on the book, I don't have that stress because, I could just always like go down here, which fair enough. I could grab more tabs, but I almost feel like I'm under pressure to get all that text in. So I think for this one, maybe I'll put it up here. Now the margins at the top do seem to be a little bit wider, so the tab does seem to fit without covering up any of the text. But you guys, I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't know how I feel about all these little tabs sticking up. Like I probably would much prefer just writing directly on the book so that there's not all these like flaps and things sticking out. I also don't know because the tabs are a little bit on the thicker side. I don't know when I close the book, like how thick it's gonna make everything. And is it gonna make the book really chunky? I mean, you can already see like I have 3 different things I've said on this page alone and I haven't even gotten through the page. So how many tabs am I gonna end up with? And is it just gonna make the book really thick? I don't know. Again, we're just gonna keep an open mind. Let's keep pushing. This is art, I tell him, studying the contouring in the mirror. You should be a Guggenheim fellow. I know, and I'm not done, he reprimands before dipping his thumb in a pot of dark green stain and swiping it over the insides of my wrists, the base of my throat on both sides, my nape. What's this? Just a bit of color. What for? A snort. I pulled strings and researched wear customs. Your husband will like it. See, again, that's so frustrating. Like, she's doing all of this to make sure that she's presentable enough and, everyone around her is like trying to act like, she's the only one that has to make an effort so that her husband will be okay with it. So frustrating. But I think I'm going to highlight that. Gives us a chance to use our little highlights here. Now, they are very thin, so I'm not sure if they're going to cover the text, but let's give it a go. Like I said, I'm going to be using the red ones because they kind of match the front of the cover. Not my choice at all. If I had a choice, I would definitely use a more neutral tone. But since we already have the yellow underline, I'll use a different color for the highlight. So here I'm going to say, okay, see, I think, how is this going to work? Because the sticky is only on the front part of this highlight. So if I cut it, put it here, and then I have to cut it, does that take away all the sticky parts? So then, there's still a bit of sticky left, so I'm gonna put it here. Oh my gosh, that's so hard to see. I don't think we're gonna be able to use the red. That is wild. That is so wild. And I'm not even saying that because I'm somebody that likes neutral colors, but that is just extremely hard to see. And for me, because when I use highlighting, it really does represent, this one's like properly stuck on. Oh goodness, what are we gonna do? You guys, these non-permanent annotations might not be for me because this is, oh no, I'm like bending the book now. Okay. Yeah, I don't know about that. The strong colors are a little too much, so let's go. Now, is this one gonna be too hard to see? No, I think that's okay. We are gonna have to go with this beige color because like I was trying to say is for me, when I highlight something, I really want to reference it quickly. I love using highlighter as an annotation technique because it really helps things stick out really well so that when I am flipping through, I can just quickly reference quotes that I really like and I can just, pick them out easily. But if I'm having to work too hard to read through the highlight, then that kind of defeats the purpose of like wanting to reference something super quickly. The beige is a little bit better, but I still wouldn't say it's amazing. It definitely doesn't give off the same effect as a real highlighter. Now, a real highlighter lets you read the text pretty easily. You don't really have to work that hard. In this case, the beige is definitely better than the red, but I don't think either are a great option. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that, but okay. He wishes away, leaving me alone with 5 odd markings and a newfound bone structure. I squeeze into the bridal jumpsuit that the stylist begged me not to refer to as a onesie. And then my twin brother comes to retrieve me. You look stunning, Owen says flatly, distrustfully, squinting at me like I'm a fake $10 bill. It was a team effort. He gestures for me to follow him. I hope they vaccinated you for rabies while they were at it. The ceremony is supposed to be a symbol of peace. That's why, in a heartwarming display of trust, my father demanded an all-vampire armed security detail for the ceremony. The Wares refused, which led to weeks of negotiations, then to a near break of the engagement, and finally to the only solution that could make everybody equally unhappy, staffing the event with humans. Laugh out loud. So I guess in this world, they're not a fan of humans, which is typically the case when you have any type of like paranormal romance. The humans always kind of get, delegated to the lower roles. There's a tense atmosphere, and then there's this. 1 venue, 3 species, 5 centuries of conflict, and 0 good faith. Wow, that is quite a sentence. So I am going to underline that. That is really powerful. It kind of gives you exactly what you need to know about how tense everything really is. And I'm loving the fact that it's actual tension because, okay, so maybe I can't multitask. Let me just get this underline going. 1 venue, 3 species. Oh my gosh, gotta line this up. This is just so tedious, you guys. I don't know if I have enough patience to do this through a whole book. 5 centuries of conflict and 0 good faith. Yeah, that tells you exactly how much tension is in that room. I mean, these people really sound like they don't like each other. And that's another thing is like when a book is going to call itself enemies to lovers, I need you to be real enemies, like this type of vibe where your families have hated each other for centuries. You've probably killed each other's families. You've probably gotten into all out wars and, all hell is broken loose. Like that's the kind of enemies vibes we need. And this is giving off exactly that. I wonder if we need maybe a plot tab here because it's kind of giving you background into how this ceremony came about and the whole reason behind it and kind of what's going on in trying to make the ceremony happen. So let's get a plot tab. We're going to grab this green tab and I'm going to put it here. Again, sticking it out as much as I want, which is not very much. And then putting it down because this is all kind of giving you background into what's the situation. The black suits escorting Owen and me seem torn between protecting us and killing us themselves just to get it over with. They wear sunglasses indoors and mutter entertainingly bad code into their sleeves. Bat is flying to the ceremony hall. I repeat, we have Bat. The groom is uninventively Wolf. When do you think your future husband will try to kill you? Owen asked conversationally, looking straight ahead. Tomorrow? Next week? Who's to say? Within the month for sure. For sure. I love that they're so nonchalantly talking about him just casually killing her off. Like, what is she even walking into? And that tells you exactly what you need to know about her as a character as well. Like, how brave of her knowing that this is what she's walking into. And yet she's still, going through with it for the sake of like trying to establish some sort of peace treaty between these two. How interesting. So I'm going to write that here. I said, love how casually they're talking about her death. And it's probably a poor attempt at some humor into a very serious situation, which, I find helps a lot too when sometimes all you can do is laugh about something because it's so bad. So this time I'm actually going to stick it here because there's a fair amount of space next to the text, and we'll see if that kind of sits a little bit better than when I had it on the edges. I do love being able to read it this way rather than here, which is having to read it sideways. So I do like that a little bit better. Still not my favorite thing, but at least it's a bit easier to read. One has to wonder if the Wares will bury your corpse or just, eat it. One has to. But if you care to live a bit longer, try tossing a stick when he starts mauling you. I hear they love to fetch. That's so funny. I bet there's like an endless amount of jokes you can make about like Wares being like dogs, just like the fetch thing here. I halt abruptly, causing a slight commotion among the agents. Owen, I say, turning to my brother. Yes, Misery? That's so interesting. Is that her name, or is he just calling her that? So I know nothing about this book. I didn't even read the back, so I'm wondering if it's capitalized, so I guess that is her name. What an interesting name to have, Misery. His eyes hold mine. Suddenly, his indolent, insolent comedian mask slips off, and he's not my father's shallow air anymore, but the brother who'd sneak into bed with me whenever I had nightmares, who swore he'd protect me from the cruelty of the humans and the bloodthirstiness of the wares. It's been decades. You know what went down the last time the vampires and wares tried this, he says, shifting to the tongue. The tongue must be their language, because this text is italicized, so I guess it's like they're talking between their brains and not maybe like telepathy instead of actually speaking the words, because it is italicized. So yeah, I guess the tongue is between just internal thoughts. I sure do. The aster is in every textbook, albeit with vastly different interpretations. The day the purple of our blood and the green of the wares flowed together, as bright and beautiful as the blooming flower the massacre was named after. Okay, so let's put a plot tab there. So it seems like the aster is this massacre where they previously tried to create an alliance between the wares and the vampires, and I guess it didn't go so well. I have to point out though, you guys, look at this tab. It just does not want to stick. So I'm not sure how sold I am on these non-permanent supplies. Now, it might just be the ones that I've gotten, but I'm not seeing a lot of potential with their stickiness and their ability to stay together. Who the hell would enter a marriage of political convenience after that? Me, apparently. You are going to live among the wolves alone. Right. That's how hostage exchanges work. Around us, the suits hurriedly check their watches. We have to go. Again, it's like she knows very much what she's going into, and she's describing it as a hostage situation. So clearly she doesn't have much faith on it being any type of a positive experience. And especially after something as brutal as a massacre happened the last time they did this, tells you just how high the stakes are. Alone to be slaughtered, Owen's jaw grinds. It's so unlike his usual careless self. I frown. Since when do you care? Why are you doing this? Because an alliance with the wares is necessary to the survival of... These are Father's words. It's not why you agreed to do this. It's not, but I'm not about to admit it. Okay, so it seems like she has her own motives for going into this alliance. She's outwardly saying the words that her father probably wants to hear, but it seems like maybe she has an ulterior motive. Maybe you underestimate Father's persuasiveness. His voice drops to a whisper. Don't do this. It's a death sentence. Say you've changed your mind. Give me 6 weeks. What will have changed in 6 weeks? He hesitates. A month. Is something amiss? We both jump at Father's sharp tone. For a split second, we're children again scolded for existing. As always, Owen recovers quicker. Well, that tells you all you need to know about their relationship with their father, which is one of fear. It doesn't sound like they have a lovey-dovey relationship. And you can see that they've now reverted back to spoken dialogue because that text is not italicized. Interesting. Now, the vacuous smile is back on his lips. I'm gonna have to look that up later. I was just giving Misery a few pointers. Father cuts through the security guards and tucks my hand into his elbow with ease, like it hasn't been a decade since our last physical contact. I force myself not to recoil. Are you ready, Misery? Oh my gosh, how sad is that? Because I am such a daddy's girl, I always feel really bad when, you know, father-daughter relationships are like this. What is sad? Loveless, almost. Father, daughter, relationship. And this time we're lucky because I have some space here at the bottom to be able to write my note. to what I am referencing here. Now here I will also use a character tab because we're seeing some insight into the dynamic with not only her and her father, but also between her and her brother. It seems like, you know, he did play a protective role at one point, but then I guess because of duty had to kind of put on a different mask and just go with what was going on. So I'm going to put this tab a little bit further towards the top so that we see, you know, the dynamic of the brother and her, and then the father and her, and also between, I guess, the father and the son as well, because it doesn't seem like the father has a good relationship with either one of them. Oh, okay, let's turn the page slowly. I cock my head, study his stern face, ask mostly out of curiosity, does it matter? It must not, because the question isn't acknowledged. Owen watches us leave, expressionless, then yells after us, hope you pack a lint roller, I hear they shed. The brother sounds funny. One of the agents stops us in front of the double doors that lead into the courtyard. Councilman Lark, Miss Lark, 1 minute. They're not quite ready for you. This really is described like a business transaction. I mean, it just doesn't seem like what you would typically expect of like a warm, loving, inviting atmosphere of a wedding. So it just goes to show exactly how much of a business transaction this wedding clearly is. We wait side by side for a handful of uncomfortable moments, then father turns to me. In my style-mandated heels, I nearly reach his height, and his eyes easily catch mine. You should smile, he orders in the tongue. According to the humans, a wedding is the most beautiful day of a bride's life. My lips twitch. There's something grotesquely funny about all of this. What about the father of the bride? He sighs. You were always needlessly defiant. Oh, that makes me so sad because she clearly is just looking for a little bit of affection or love or some sort of response from him, some sort of like protectiveness from him, that he's sending his daughter out into, you know, this situation, and he just turns it around on her. And if that isn't gaslighting, I don't know what is. So I'm going to use a little highlighter tab here just to highlight you were always needlessly defiant. And that one just about fits over what we need. My failures spare no front. Clearly in his eyes, they don't. So I'm going to use an underline tab as well. And I've been keeping, you know, the little bits and scraps that we've been cutting because sometimes I think some of them are good to fit. This one's still a little bit too long, so I'm going to cut this one off here. I mean, that's quite a powerful, like, couple of sentences there. It's like in his eyes, like, his daughter's just a failure, and it doesn't matter if she's looking for love or affection or just some sort of like support on what is, you know, a really tough situation. Clearly he just sees it all as a character flaw, which is so sad. I'm actually going to put a little sad blue tab here because, again, like, what a sad relationship between father and daughter, especially on such an important day like this where she, you know, as strong as she comes off, she probably is looking for a little bit of support. I know. I don't need soothing or encouragement. I've been nothing but unwavering in my commitment to this union. I'm not prone to panic or fear or last-minute changes of heart. I've done this before, remember? He studies me for a few moments until the doors open to what's left of my life. I wonder if she means she's tried to get married before. What does that mean? I'm not sure. It's a perfect night for an outdoor ceremony. String lights, soft breeze, winking stars. I take a deep breath, hold it in, and listen to Mendelssohn's March String Quartet rendition. According to the bubbly wedding planner who's been blowing up my phone with links I don't click on, the viola player is a member of the Human Philharmonic. Top 3 in the world, she texted, followed by more exclamation points than I've used in my cumulative written communication since birth. I must admit, it does sound nice, even if the guests glance around confused, unsure how to proceed until an overworked staffer gestures at them to stand. It's not their fault. Wedding ceremonies are, as of a century or so ago, exclusively a human thing. Vampire society has evolved past monogamy, and wares, I have no clue what wares are up to, as I've never even been in the presence of one. So let's go ahead and put a plot tab there, because not only is this situation so extraordinary because it's an alliance between two sides that absolutely hate each other, but apparently weddings are really abnormal in their world because they've, now left it to the humans. It's not really something they do. So again, just like kind of reestablishing the fact of how rare this whole occasion is. So I'm going to put a little plot tab there, just so we can have a little bit more of that background kind of information if I ever want to refer back to, you know, the history of all this stuff. If I had, I wouldn't be alive. Come on, father grips my elbow and we start down the aisle. The bride's guests are familiar, but only vaguely. A sea of willowy figures, unblinking lilac eyes, pointed ears, lips closed over fangs, and half-pitying, most disgusted looks. I spot several members of my father's inner circle, counselors I haven't met since I was a child, powerful families and their scions, most of whom fawned over Owen and were little shits to me when we were kids. No one here could even remotely qualify as a friend, but in defiance of whoever came up with the guest list, my lack of meaningful relationships must have made seat filling a bit of a challenge. It's so sad. It seems like, you know, she doesn't really have a lot of meaningful relationships in her life. So that's what I'm gonna write. It seems like she doesn't have any reliable sources of support. Maybe her brother slightly, and that best friend from childhood who is now apparently gone. So she's very much in this thing alone. So in this situation, we're going to have to put it on the side here. And again, not my favorite because we're covering up some text, but I guess I could always just like flip it over if I need to read it. And then there's the groom side, the one that emanates a foreign kind of heat, the one that wants me dead. The wearer's blood beats quicker, louder, its smell coppery and unfamiliar. They are taller than vampires, stronger than vampires, faster than vampires, and none of them seems particularly enthused at the idea of their alpha marrying one of us. Their lips curl as they eye me, defiant, angry. Their loathing is so thick, I taste it on the roof of my palate. I don't blame them. I don't blame anyone for not wanting to be here. I don't even blame the whispers or the catty comments or the fact that half the guests here never learned that sound carries farther than shit. She used to be the collateral with the humans for 10 years, and now this? Oh, okay, so I guess that's what she meant by she's done this before, where she's had to go be a liaison, I guess, or, you know, sacrifice herself for something. I bet she likes the attention. Blade-eared leech. I give her 2 weeks. More like 2 hours if those animals either stabilize the region once and for all or cause full-out war again. Think they're actually going to be effing tonight? That's so sad. I hate when people come to weddings. Honestly, just a side note, I hate when people come to weddings on what is seemingly supposed to be in normal situations, not this situation. But like, it's supposed to be a happy day for the bride and groom, and you've like agreed to come to this wedding or this, you know, event for someone else to celebrate their love. And I hate when you get catty people in the audience who are just like making comments about the dress or the venue. It's like, why are you even there? Like, just please let that be the one sacred thing that people have. Like, you know, it happened at my own wedding, and it's like, I feel sad for those people. Like, what does it do for you to put somebody else down on like one of the happiest days of their lives? Like, does that make you feel better to call her dress ugly? Like, what's it to you? You don't have to wear the dress. It's her dress. Like, just let her be happy, you know? So anyways, side tangent. Sorry. Why do people do that? Sometimes humans just stress me out. Just let people have their days. I have no friends on the left and only enemies on the right. What a powerful sentence that is as well. So let's grab one of these little underline tabs. Now, these underline tabs might be, out of all the non-permanent supplies, my favorite one. And that's, you know, using favorite pretty loosely because let's be honest, I don't think I'm becoming a fan of these non-permanent annotations. But that one seems to be the least finicky to deal with and the easiest to see as well. So I'm going to underline that because, I mean, poor girl, she's got nobody. I have no friends on the left and only enemies on the right, so I ground myself and look straight ahead at my future husband. He stands at the end of the path, turned away from me, listening to what someone is whispering in his ear, his best man, perhaps. I can't get a good look at his face, but I know what to expect from the picture I was given weeks ago. Handsome, striking, unsmiling. His hair is short, a rich brown cut to a buzz. His suit is black, well fitted across his broad shoulders. He's the only man in the room not wearing a tie, and yet he manages to look elegant anyway. So I guess she does at least recognize that he's handsome. Maybe we share a stylist, as good a starting point for a marriage as any, I suppose. Be careful with him, Father whispers, lips barely moving. He is very dangerous. Do not cross him. What every girl wants to hear 10 feet from the altar, especially when the hard line of her groom's shoulders already looks cross, impatient, annoyed. He doesn't bother glancing in my direction, as though I'm inconsequential, as though there are other better things for him to do with his time. Ugh, I hate that for her. Can't even be bothered to look at her? Like, that is just so ridiculous. I'm going to write that down, actually, because that annoys me. How? I'm going to write it big. How ridiculous. Like, she, again, has been made to be this little trophy on offer, and he can't even be bothered. Do you know what? This time, I might even cut it. So maybe if you write a smaller amount, you can actually cut the notes. Let's just, while we're in the spirit of trying new things. See, now that's a little bit better because it's not so, like, obnoxiously big. I wonder what the best man is whispering in his ear. Maybe a mirror copy of the warnings I got. Misery Lark? No need to be careful. She's not particularly dangerous, so feel free to cross her. What is she going to do? Chuck her lint roller at you? Ugh. I snort out a soft laugh, and that's a mistake, because my future husband hears it and finally turns to me. My stomach drops. My step falters. The murmurs quiet. In the photo I was shown, the groom's eyes looked an ordinary, unsurprising blue, but as they meet mine, I realize two things. The first is that I was wrong, and his gaze is actually an odd pale green that borders on white. The second is that Father was right. This man is very, very dangerous. I'm going to put a little character tab here because we are getting our very first kind of descriptions of the groom. So I want to just put a tab there to reference, you know, kind of also like their first impressions of each other and what, you know, she registers about him. His eyes roam over my face, and I immediately suspect that he must not have been given photos, or maybe he just wasn't curious enough about his bride to check them out. That's probably it. Either way, he's not pleased with me, and that's obvious. Too bad I've cut my teeth on disappointing people, and I'm not about to start caring now. It's on him if he doesn't like what he's seeing. That's exactly right, girl. You preach, because that is his shortcoming. If it's something he doesn't like, that's something he needs to figure out. So at least she has a little bit of a backbone. I like that we're getting snippets of seeing that she might actually be very strong-willed and has, you know, her own kind of sense of self. So I love that. I square my shoulders, a small distance separates us, and I let my eyes pin his as I close it, which is how I see it all happen in real time. Pupils widening, brow furrowing, nostrils flaring. He watches me like I'm something made of maggots and takes one deep breath slow, then another, sharp. The moment I'm delivered to the altar, his expression widens into something that looks, for an instant, indecipherably shaken, and I knew it. I knew that Wares didn't like vampires, but this feels beyond that. It feels like pure, hard, personal contempt. Wow, I love that. I think, you know, like I said, that is giving off like real enemies vibes, and I am here for that because goodness me, like, how are they going to overcome and surmount this much hatred? Excuse me. Sorry about that. I'm back. I am fighting a bit of a cold, so had a little bit of a coughing fit. Tough shit, buddy, I think, lifting my chin. I step forward again until we are standing in front of each other, this side of too close. Two strangers who only just met, about to get married. I'm going to actually highlight that because, goodness me, can you imagine being in that situation? Two literal strangers. I mean, they haven't seen each other, they haven't spoken to each other. He only just now looked at her. That one's not long enough, so let me grab another one of these little scraps here. About to get married. The music wanes, the guests sit, my heart's a sluggish drum, even slower than usual, because of the way the groom looms over me, leaning forward to study me like I'm an abstract painting. I watch his chest heave hungrily as if to inhale me. Then he pulls back, licks his lips, and stares. He stares and stares and stares. The silence stretches. The officiant clears his throat. The courtyard breaks into bouts of puzzled mumbles that slowly rise to a sticky, familiar friction. I notice that the best man has unsheathed his claws. Behind me, Vania, the head of Father's guards, is showing her fangs, and the humans, of course, are reaching for their guns. Oh my goodness, like that tension is so palpable. I mean, nothing has even literally happened. He is literally just looking at her, and everyone is up in arms. And isn't that just literally such a description of what is wrong in this world? It's like, people need any tiny excuse to fight with one another, and there's no real sense of anyone even trying to come to a place of understanding, of like coming to the table with like, look, this is hard for you, this is hard for me, let's get through it as best we can, or let's really talk through it. And isn't that just, like I said, literally a replication of what's going on in our world today? We are so quick to hate. We are so quick to dislike one another, to let our differences be the reason that we are on opposite sides of the fence. Like, it just doesn't need to be that serious. Like, nothing's even happened, people. Calm down. All through that, my future husband still stares. So I step closer and murmur, I don't care how little you like this, but if you want to avoid a second Aster, that's pretty ballsy of her to just like, you know, knowing he's very dangerous and to still give him this little warning and be like, you know, standing up for herself. I like that. So I'm going to write, I like that she's trying to take control of the situation, at least bring it back to center a little bit, which also isn't that very typical of us women, just trying to be the ones that can think logically through emotional reactions of men. Listen, I don't hate men. My husband is amazing. I know lots of great men, but I know in the world as a whole, men and women just, yeah. His hand comes up lightning fast to close around my upper arm, and the warmth of his skin is a shock to my system, even through the fabric of my sleeve. His pupils contract into something different, something animal. I instinctively try to wiggle free of his grasp, and it's a mistake. Dare she even try to, like, you know, come out of his grasp? My heel catches on a cobblestone and I lose my balance. The groom stops my fall with an arm snaked around my waist, and a combination of gravity and his sheer determination wedges me between him and the altar. His front pressing against mine. He cages me, pins me, and stares down at me like he forgot where he is and I'm something to be consumed, like I'm prey. This is highly, oh my, the officiant gasps when the groom growls in his direction. Behind me, I hear the tongue and English, panic, screams, chaos, the best man and my father snarling, people yelling threats, someone sobbing. Another Aster in the making, I think, and I really should do something. I will do something to stop it. But the groom's scent hits my nostrils. Everything recedes. Good blood, my hindbrain hisses, nonsensical. He'd make for such good blood. He inhales several times in rapid succession, filling his lungs, pulling me in. His hand moves up from my arm to the dip of my throat, pressing into one of my markings. A guttural sound rises from someplace low in his chest, making my knees weak. Then he opens his mouth, and I know that he's going to tear me to pieces. He's going to maul me. He's going to devour me. You, he says, voice deep, almost too low to hear. How the F do you smell like that? Like this. Less than 10 minutes later, he slips a ring around my finger and we swear to love each other till the day we die. Oh my goodness me. That is quite, oh my gosh, look, it's already fallen off. This is wild. I do not think these are going to work. I'm going to try to stick it back on here. I wonder if once I close the book, some of the pressure might make the stickiness stay. I'm going to underline that last sentence because what a crazy set of events that has just happened. I mean, everyone's like up in arms. They're all ready to start firing at each other, start fighting. These two are lost in their own little la la land. She clearly has like a visceral reaction to him as well, just like he does. And clearly his blood and her smell are like appealing to some of their were and vampire senses. So clearly there's like already a huge attraction. But I love when this happens in enemies to lovers as well. It's like they can't help but be so attracted to each other, but they hate each other so much. So it must be such a trippy feeling to have. Now, typically what I do at the end of a chapter, because there's a little bit more space, this is where I will use my open bracketing if I was writing on the actual book. But since today we're doing some non-permanent annotations, I'm going to use this large pad. So the large pad was intended to be used at the ends of the chapters to kind of write any like big reactions I have, just any thoughts as to what we have read so far. And I'm going to write here, wow, what a prologue. Which, by the way, that was just the prologue, can you believe? I mean, it's setting quite the picture, quite the scene. Love the actual real and palpable enemies. Oh my goodness, I totally butchered that. Look, okay, so that's one positive of using non-permanent techniques, is that if you mess up, you can always just grab another one. Now, if I was writing in the actual book, that would have been terrible. Stuff like that would drive me crazy to have like a mistake like that, but this is one benefit, so I'm just going to have to rewrite that over again. Ugh. What a prologue. And this time I'm actually going to use these lines to help me write what I need to write. So setting quite the scene. Love the actual, well, I guess I didn't stick to the lines. Actual, real, and palpable enemies vibes. You can actually feel the hatred. But also the attraction, and I bet it's driving him insane, which is why he was like staring at her and he was growling, he's doing all these things, because he probably doesn't want to feel this type of attraction to her, like to have her smell be such an impactful thing to him. And she also clearly, you know, by saying good blood, he'd make for good blood, like there's some attraction there as well. So wow, what a prologue we already have. Now, I will say this is getting me excited for reading the book, but as far as the actual tabs and the whole non-permanent situation and using all these different kinds of supplies, I need to sit with this for a little bit before we wrap up this video and just like go see how I actually feel about all of this. See, like some of these are like actually coming off. I don't think these tabs are going to be good for long term. The underlines seem to be pretty decent. The highlighter, I would say I feel medium about, not my favorite. It's very skinny as well. These tabs definitely no. Yeah, very interesting experience as compared to actually writing in the book. Oh, see, one of them even came out. I have no idea where this one even came from. Oh, it was right here. This one's been failing me the whole time. Okay, I'm going to close the book and hopefully if I put some pressure, but you guys, this just seems like a lot of effort to put in to getting tabs. Like I can see how this is going to get real tedious real fast. Like what happens when I'm back here and this whole thing is like full of these tabs and then I'm not going to remember if one of them falls out somewhere. Where is it going to go? And how is this supposed to stand the test of time when I look back on this maybe like a year from now. I just don't know. Okay, friends, that brings us to the end of our annotation session today, and I don't know what to say. That was definitely interesting. It's very different to what I'm used to, which is writing in the book. Now, some parts were better than others. Like I said, the underline tabs were pretty easy to use. You just have to cut them if your sentence is a little shorter or whatever it might be. So that one was probably okay. The highlight tabs were medium because I don't love that they're super skinny. You don't really feel like you're covering the full text. I also don't love the color options. I feel like I couldn't really see through them. These sticky tabs, I don't think I'm a fan of because they don't seem to be very sticky. What I enjoyed about using sticky pads instead of just writing directly in the margins is that it was nice that I was able to write like I normally would instead of having to, like, you know, contort my body to write at all different angles. It was nice to be able to write everything I wanted to and then place it. But as you saw, the placement was kind of funny as well because there's not enough space in the margins at the top or the sides or sometimes in between. And then as I was flipping through, you saw that some of the tabs were coming off as well, which is not great. And then like this page here, you know, some of them are like, it just sticks out a little funny, and I don't know how I feel about that. I'm not completely convinced this technique is for me. Now, I will say, maybe it's the supplies I have. So if you are somebody who has done non-permanent annotations before, please leave some comments below on some tips or suggestions for other supplies you have, not just for me, but for anybody else who reads the comments in the community. It might be helpful to all of us. So I'm not sure if it's just the supplies I have. Now, I'm typically somebody that doesn't write something off in the first go. I like to give most things and most people at least 2 chances. So I want to keep going a little bit. I think I will annotate a few more chapters with these supplies, see how the tabs go, how the underlining, all of that goes, and then maybe make up my mind. It might get easier as I get more comfortable with it, and maybe it's just a matter of replacing these sticky tabs with something a little bit stickier. Maybe I just need to use like normal Post-it notes or something. I know Post-it notes can be pretty good adhesive on those. And I have also seen some people use like craft paper in their annotations when they're doing non-permanent annotations. So maybe that's worth checking out as well. So I think I just need to go research a little bit more and see what other supplies I can use. But so far, I'm not completely convinced that this method is for me. I do really just love writing in my books, and it's so easy to just, you know, write your little note, make your little underline, and be on your way. Because that's the other thing about these, because they require a little bit more effort and time, I feel like I was more stressed about the actual annotation than being invested in the book. Because I have to say, a comment about this book, that was only the prologue that I read, and it was so interesting. I love the enemies vibes it was giving. I'm somebody that needs like real, true enemies. When you say enemies to lovers, I need you to commit to the enemies part and be like real, actual enemies. And this is definitely giving that. I also don't usually read a lot of paranormal romances, but this is the time of year to read this type of content, some spooky content, some different, you know, creatures and things like that. So I definitely felt all of the vibes of this season with this book. I am very excited to keep reading it, but the non-permanent annotation supplies are kind of making me hesitate just because that wasn't like my favorite experience. But again, it was my first time doing it. I've only done 1 chapter. Let's keep doing a couple more chapters. Unfortunately, I can't do it live just for copyright reasons, but I will report back in one of my videos. Maybe I'll share like a review and honest thoughts about these supplies and doing like a non-permanent approach. But I will definitely give it a little bit more of a chance. Friends, thank you so much for watching today, and I will catch you in my next video.